11.2 spoiler season is upon us. Season 3 is right around the corner, and in yesterday's video, I talked about all of the healer tier sets that are going to be coming. If you haven't seen them yet, there are some extremely spicy ones that the devs have cooked up. But on top of the tier sets, they've also released some initial, like, first round tweaks that they're doing to all of the healers. A lot of it's minor, but there are some game shifting, like, rotation breaking, like some very powerful stuff that they're changing, and it might, go unnoticed until we see it in the PTR. But I am going to be here to break all of this down for you. So let's go and start off going in alphabetical order once again. Starting off with Druid, there's a couple changes coming to how Druid's class set or class talent tree is set, but Lycar's meditation is being replaced with Lycar's inspiration. Instead of getting secondary stats, which to me makes more sense, you're now going to get like alternate stats. So magic damage, you're going to get stamina in cat form, but movement speed in bear form, and then avoidance in moonkin form. So very weird there. All in all, it shouldn't change like too much. Other than bear form, you're going to be faster. I don't get this one. I really don't get why these are swapped. Anyways, Maim is now going up in cooldown. I believe that's mostly for like ferals and stuff. And then bear form's threat generation multiplier, blah, blah, blah. Okay, moving on to actual stuff that affects Resto Druid. So they're doing a lot of buffs to the healing specifically of Wild Stalker. And as you know, you are getting tier sets based on your hero talents that you're taking. So definitely check out the hero talent tier set video that I made yesterday if you haven't already. I know I've already said that, but Symbiotic Blooms and Bursting Growth's healing is increased by 50%. That's a hefty buff. On top of that, Thriving Growth's base chance for Symbiotic Blooms to grow increased by 30%. Rate at which this increases with large target counts slightly reduced. So you're going to be seeing more blooms, you're going to have more Bursting Growth healing and more Symbiotic Blooms healing already. That's huge. Like, they really do want this to be an option for raid healing, and they want to allow you to cat weave more often. I am such a fan of this. Twin Sprout's chance to generate an additional Bloodseeker Vine or Symbiotic Bloom when it spreads or blooms is increased to 30%. So once again, more blooms, more vines. It's going to be so much more effective or efficient for this hero talent tree. And on top of that, Implant also triggers from casting Wild Growth, not just your Swiftmins. So when you Swiftmin, now it says like when you Swiftmin, your target gets a bloom guaranteed. But how it's going to read is now whenever you Swiftmin or Wild Growth, a target is going to get a bloom guaranteed. So if you target someone with Wild Growth, I'm sure it would go on that person, but that will need to be tested come the PTR. On top of that, they are also getting some pretty hefty actual flatline resto buffs. So the notes are we're making an adjustment to healing cooldowns, which that's kind of baseline across the board. They're trying to make cooldowns be more effective in 5-man environments, like big AoE raid cooldowns, while not really messing with how they behave at 20-man cooldowns. You'll kind of see that as we go across all of the healers. So on, Tranquility, it's their big 20-man AoE healing, like raid cooldown. They're making it do 100% more healing. However, its healing is going to be reduced beyond 5 targets. And note here that this says that it's going to be a slight buff from 6 to 19 players, but it's going to be the same effectiveness at 20 targets. And then it's going to be a slight nerf beyond 20 players. So basically it's a buff at 5, and then it's going to scale until it gets to the same numbers as it is currently at 20 people, and then continue to scale onward beyond 20 people. So this is insane, because if you haven't read their tier set that's coming with the Keeper of the Grove, whenever you cast Convoke or Tree of Life, you're going to spawn a guy that's just going to channel Tranquility, which is going to be insane, because in 5-man environments, it's only going to go at 50% effectiveness. But with this buff, it's going to basically cast a free Tranquility at its current power, because it's going to be doubled and then a half effective one. So that already is like really awesome. But then on top of that, they are also buffing the stacks, the hot that you get from Tranquility. So the hot effect from Tranquility has been getting in a 200% increase. That is so much. Like, that is so much, but once again, it is also getting reduced beyond 5 targets. So they wanted to make it more impactful in 5-man. They absolutely did that, especially with the talent tree tier set. It's going to be disgusting. rDruid is going to be a force to be reckoned with, and I wouldn't doubt it if we see a cat weaving Mythic Plus meta once again. I don't know. It's looking like it could be from this initial look that we've seen so far. Moving on to Evoker, as you know, Flameshaper has kind of fallen off, so they're trying to add some spice back into it. Their tier set does look pretty cool. You're going to be throwing bombs of healing left and right whenever you engulf. Pretty cool stuff, but let's read the buffs that they're actually doing to the hero talent tree. So engulf damage and healing is going to be doubled. Okay, that's, once again, that is the initial impact of engulf. It's not the explosions that you get from all the hots that you have when you engulf someone. So doubling that initial impact of engulf, I like that. It's going to be doing more damage, more healing. That's very nice. Engulf now requires the target to have Fire Breath or Dream Breath active to be used. This is kind of like this is kind of like a failsafe. I think this is a quality of life improvement because it would suck if you were trying to engulf someone as your Dream Breath was at like 1 second and then you lose a lot of that impact. So if you miss that timer, if you don't really quite get that engulf off before that Dream Breath fades or something. So I think this is going to be actually a quality of life improvement, albeit some might see it as a nerf. I see this as a buff because it's not going to let you engulf someone unless they have a breath on them. Kind of like Swiftmend. Imagine if you tried to Swiftmend a target when you're running Verdant Infusion, but they don't have any hots on them. You know, I think this is a failsafe. This is a good quality of life buff. On top of that, Engulf's effectiveness now scales by 20% with each damage or healing hot on them. Used to be 50%, so this actually, I think this is going to be a nerf to kind of offset the buffs that they're giving it. But I do think that Engulf is getting buffed in a way that it needed to, so it's okay if they scale back the thing that can set it off or can make it go over the top. On top of that, Fulminous Roar, Fulminous, is that? I think I'm saying that right. No longer decreases the duration of Fire Breath or Dream Breath. This was very frustrating. They added this a while back, where whenever you would cast Engulf on someone, it would consume some of that hot and decrease the duration. But, you know, that's kind of eliminating the point of the whole hero talent tree, is having that hot or dot on the enemy or your ally. So I like this. I think this is very good. Personally, I'm a huge fan of what they're doing so far. But moving on to the actual preservation changes, as you see, there are a ton. They do not want preservation to sit on the sidelines again. They feel bad about what they did to nerfing Engulf, recently in Season 1. So, new talent, Unshakable. Your empowered spells are 10% more effective, but while charging a healing empowered spell, you cannot be knocked back, just eliminating some of that frustration while also buffing your empowered spells. And note that this does also affect Fire Breath, so I think this is going to be a pretty sick talent, probably played in all forms of content if you ask me. New talent, Tempo Charged. Temporal Compression increases the healing or damage of your next empowered spell by 5% per stack. To me, this is going to be something that they probably play, but this isn't like too exciting. We need excitement back in Evoker. Like, we need something sexy, something flashy to bring the players there, because right now they just aren't. Just in Time has been redesigned. This now reduces time dilation's cooldown by 10 seconds and grants an additional charge. Okay, now this is kind of more like it, because one of the strengths of Disc Priest and why Disc Priest has a firm grip on the meta until something changes is the fact that they have 2 charges of their external. So giving them 2 charges of their external and reducing the cooldown, this is something that could make them more desirable in those top end push keys. And as you know, the meta trickles down, but does it make the spec more fun? Not yet, but it does make it more desirable in the top end. Delay Harm has been redesigned. 15% damage of the damage that you take from time dilation's damage over time is absorbed. So this used to be where instead of delaying 50% of the damage of like your external only delaying 50% of the damage, it would delay 70%. But now they're saying, okay, now this is going to be redesigned to where it's going to delay only 50% still, but then 15% of the damage taken from its dot is just going to be absorbed. I think this is pretty good. I think this will scale a bit better. So let's read what the devs say. Prez doesn't have access to a damage reduction external ability outside of Renewing Blaze as Flameshaper. They have Zephyr. I would count Zephyr, but I know what they mean. I know what they mean when, like, if an ally has a big hot or dot on them, or like a big tank buster. This is what they're kind of referring to, which hurts their potential in content like Mythic Plus. This opens up the possibility for them to save their tank from massive damage. I agree. This is very nice. I like these two changes, and I bet they're going to be like a choice node. Both of them seem pretty competitive. I'd like to see how they play out, though. But 2 charges and reduced cooldown is going to be very hard to beat. Um, Temporal Artificer reduces Rewind's cooldown by 90 seconds. Wow. Okay, so they are buffing Rewind, which I don't know. As a Mistweaver Monk, a player that's played with Revival for so long, Rewind is just like Revival on steroids. So Stasis's power has made it feel required to take, which forces players into the bottom right capstone branch. By moving it further up in the tree, we reduce the opportunity cost of picking Stasis. So they're basically saying Stasis is high value, but we don't want to punish you for taking it. At the same time, we're offering an easy to play talent that competes with Stasis. So you don't feel required to use Stasis if you don't want to. You know what? I don't hate it. I like this. I like this. However, like I said, dude, Rewind is insane. This is going to be very nice in Mythic Plus. Like, I think that was their intention. But in Raid, dude, this might go insane. I don't know. Rewind is a cooldown and a half, man. Okay. Reversion now has 2 charges. Okay, so they're just baking this in baseline, which I like. I mean, they did it with Renewing Mist a while back, and it just feels right. So I like that. Emerald Blossom's healing is increased by 25%. That's insane, because I feel like Emerald Blossom builds are always pretty sleeper, and then they get like tiny little buffs here and there, and then they just break. Like, they're so good, and they're kind of giving it a pretty hefty buff. So honestly, I don't hate it for like 5-man, but in Raid, I feel like this is going to be a number that they want to watch. Personally, temporal anomaly absorption is increased. It's doubled. Okay, absorption beyond 5 targets now diminishes more sharply. Okay, I like this, because just being able to shoot an orb out and it put 100k absorb on like everyone in the raid is pretty gross. So making it scale down beyond 5 targets even quicker, I think, is very fair. But doubling it for a 5-man content is very nice. I like this a lot. It's a rotational shield that you put on everyone. I mean, no healer should have that, right? Okay. Dreamflight healing is increased by 1.5 times. Wow. Wow. Okay. That's insane. Healing no longer is increased by 100% outside of raid, and the healing amount now diminishes beyond 5 targets. Okay, so they really want to give them some 5-man love. However, Dreamflight is a little awkward. It does suffer from what, like, Ultimate Penitence, I'm sorry, suffered from a while back, where once you're locked into this healing cooldown, you're locked in, and if a swirly spawns under you, you're dead. So if they can make this like easily steerable, if they can make this like you could fly back to the beginning of it like you can with your deep breath, that would be very nice. Stasis is now a choice node with Temporal Artificer. That makes sense. That's what they were explaining up here. The following talents have been removed: Erasure and Punctuality. I'm pretty sure they would run Erasure, wouldn't they? So that's crazy, but maybe that's being replaced by these new talents. So these new talents do seem pretty nice. So I think, you know what, whatever they removed, it's for the best, in my opinion. So I think Evoker will be played more often in Season 3, but maybe it's not because of, they've alleviated the pain points or made it more fun. I do think they just are making it a lot better, honestly, which will lead to more people playing it. But moving on, what comes after that is Monk. And Monk is getting, let's see what they're saying about Mistweavers first, and then we'll get to the spicy one. Dev notes. This is the same thing that we've read already. They're trying to adjust all of the AoE cooldowns. So Revival is doubling. However, it's going to scale down beyond 5 targets more rapidly. So once again, same with Restoral. They're behaving the same. So in 5-man, it's going to heal harder. In 20-man, it's going to heal the same. Between 5 and 20, it's going to feel a little bit better. After 20 people, it's going to feel worse. I think Revival, personally, this is just my take, and this is as someone who plays Mistweaver like religiously, I think it was actually kind of okay in Mythic Plus. I never really used it for specifically a healing cooldown. I would use it when, I could double dip. Like, if I either needed that panic button heal, I would just press it on top of another cooldown, or I would press it when I would get some use out of its Mass Dispel. However, in Raid, this button feels miserable to press. I mean, the only time it's worth pressing, in my opinion, like the only time it's actually as powerful as it should be, is when you have just Yulon ramped or Chi-Ji'd and you have a ton of hots out there to amplify its healing. Outside of that, this button is like you literally just like spit, you hot Tua all over your raid, and no one wants that. Like I want that juicy heal. I want that juicy heal. So I kind of wish that they would buff it in specifically like up to 20 man, like maybe make it scale instead of scaling to 20, make it scale to like 25 and then make it start nerfing itself. So I don't know. I think it's 20 man healing is a little low, but for 5 man revival getting a buff, I'm not complaining. However, this next change is going to be insane. I don't think it's going to be broken. I don't want anyone to think that. But this is such an exciting change. Let me go ahead and read it. Vivacious Vivification has been redesigned. Your next Vivify is instant cast after casting Rising Sun Kick. So, for those that don't know, Vivacious Vivification is a constant timer. The moment you log into your character, it starts a 10-second clock that will keep going, and every time that 10 seconds ends, it's going to check to see if you don't have Vivacious Vivification, and if you don't, it's going to give it to you. It's a buff, and then you can basically cast an instant Vivify. Now, the reason why this is so insane and so awesome, I think for the spec, especially Mistweaver, is because we will now have control over this. Not only that, but we can control when it bursts. So before, you would kind of get lucky if you're in the middle of your ramp and you need to Vivify twice and your Vivacious timer's almost up while you have a charge. So you could Vivify someone instantly, and then that timer would reset because you're lucky, and then you could Vivify someone again instantly. That it relied kind of on luck or just like insane robotic timing, okay? But now you can do some very satisfying gameplay loops that are really strong. So imagine you're in the middle of your Yulon ramp. You cast a couple of enveloping mists. You rushing wind kicked before you Yulon, so you have a charge of Vivacious ready. So you enveloping mist, enveloping mist, enveloping mist. You go to Vivify someone, rushing wind kick, instant Vivify. Maybe you Thunder Focus Tea that rushing wind kick, so then you could rushing wind kick again, instant Vivify. I mean, this is so insane. Imagine this with Focused Thunder, the thing that now, whenever you whenever you Thunder Focus Tea, you now get 2 resets on your rushing wind kick. Okay, imagine you're in your Yulon ramp. Before you start your Yulon ramp, you cast rushing wind kick, so you have Vivacious. You cast like 4 or 5 enveloping mists. Then you go to Thunder Focus Tea, rushing wind kick, instant Vivify, rushing wind kick, instant Vivify, rushing wind kick, instant Vivify. You have now enhanced all of your enveloping mists to their maximum. You have now spawned a ton of renewing mist. You've cast 3 instant juicy Vivify. Like, this is so insane. And that's just the Yulon raid build, okay? Imagine this in the Chi-Ji build. It will be a lot trickier in the Chi-Ji build because a lot of times, like, depending on how many renewing mists you have out, you might not want to use that Vivify, if that makes sense. But if you have a ton of renewing mists out because you're cycling a bunch of Rising Sun Kicks, then yeah, you will want to cash in Vivifies after each rushing wind or Rising Sun Kick. So yes, just super exciting in raid. Now in Mythic Plus, this is also extremely good because once again, you will now have control over when you gain this powerful effect. So if you're doing like a big heal check, like say you're on Brewmaster Aldreer in Cinderbrew, for example, and 2 people have the dots, you can envelop mist one of them as the dots are applied, and then once those dots are applied, you can cash in your Vivify stack that you're ready with, then rushing wind kick, or I'm sorry, rising sun kick, and then Vivify the other one, and then like if you Thunder Focus Teed, do it again. Like it's just this is insane. I think this is going to be so much fun to play around. It's giving us control over a buff that was I say random, even though it's on a set timer every time, but very rarely are you able to focus on this timer in combat because of how many other moving parts there are in your rotation in its current design. So this is like a massive thumbs up in my opinion. So I am so excited just from this one line of text. It's not even a Mistweaver change. It's a straight up Monk change. I am so excited to play Mistweaver come season 3 just because of this. Like the raid build is going to be hot and spicy. I am very excited. This is okay. I don't hate this. Okay, moving on to Holy Paladin. I could talk about Mistweaver all day. You guys know this. New talent, Pillars of Light. I love the name. Allies with Beacon of Light or Beacon of Faith are healed every 3 seconds. Beacon of Virtue instantly heals allies. So when you pop Beacon of Virtue, there's going to be an instant heal, kind of like when you're playing Disc Priest and you press Evangelism now. I like that a lot. Although it is once every 15 seconds, because Virtue is 15 seconds of a cooldown. So depending on how much this heals, this could be pretty insane. But your beacons are now also just a hot with this talent. Depending on this really hinges on how strong this the hot is. But this basically behaves kind of like those trinkets, Brood Scale. What was that one trinket you guys know where it would give you and an ally verse and a rolling hot constantly? I love that trinket, so I'm going to love Pillars of Light as well. Beacon of Light now only transfers healing from direct healing and Light of Dawn. Interesting, very interesting. Healing transfer amount is increased by 10%. So I wonder what effects this is kind of removing. Like, what effects are no longer going to be transferred by Beacon of Light? That is very, maybe like Herald of the Sun, Sun's Avatar maybe is a pretty indirect heal. Things like that, I'm guessing, are indirect heals. The Consecration Golden Sun or whatever that thing is, where your Consecration tick heals. Things like that are pretty indirect heals. So this is pretty odd, but increasing like your Holy Shocks transfer amount and your Word of Glory transfer amount and your Light of Dawn transfer amount, I don't hate that. I could get behind that. I think that makes more sense. And the player, you're gaining more agency over what you're transferring, which I don't hate. Infusion of Light now reduces the cast time of Holy Light by 30% and makes your next flash heal or flash of light instant cast. Now activates based on a chance when casting Holy Shock. Was activated from Holy Shock critical strikes. Okay, so this is telling me that they're still going to want crit. Like, crit is very good for paladins. So I don't think this is trying to, say, hey, let's take some strength out of how good crit is for paladins. I don't. I think this is just saying, let's make it less punishing when you don't crit and just make it a baseline chance. I don't hate that. I really do not hate that. Moving on, Divine Favor now reduces the mana cost by 100%, but no longer decreases cast times. Yikes. Yikes, that's a pretty big yikes. Okay, Truth, Prevail, and Relentless Inquisitor talent locations have been adjusted. So we're just going to have to see where those lie on the talent trees. So all in all, personally, these don't excite me like the rest of them do. Although Pillars of Light, depending on how good it is, how strong the hot is, I think could be pretty exciting. If you just put a rolling hot on like the tank and the squishiest healer, that could be, or the squishiest DPS, that could be pretty cool. I'm a fan of that. And then also how much this instantly heals. Our Beacon of Virtue instantly heals ally. How good this is depends strictly on how much it heals. If it's as strong as Evangelism, this is going to be broken. If it's not, then it's going to be like, okay, cool. It did an instant heal, which is nice. Also, I wonder, now that I'm saying it, will that instant heal be transferred through Beacon of Virtue? Probably not. That's why they're mentioning it here, that only direct healing. Okay, now it makes sense. Moving on to priests. Wow. Okay, Holy Nova mana cost reduced by 87%. Yeah, why this thing costs mana, I have no idea. But now, if you ever wanted to as a Holy Priest or a Disc Priest, you could probably just spam Holy Nova as packs are dying. You don't want to try to cast a Smite before your group snipes it, and just not be punished on mana. I like this. I love like the corny thought of like, what if you could just go into a raid and spam Holy Nova? How much HPS would you do? You wouldn't do a lot, but hey, at least now you could try and not run out of mana. So pretty cool. Moving on to Disc Priest, Luminous Barrier absorption has been doubled, but its absorption now reduces more rapidly beyond 5 targets. Okay, I wonder if this is gonna make people. I wonder if they're gonna do anything to the actual dome. I wonder also if they're gonna. Why would you play a shield, like an AoE shield in Mythic Plus, when you could play an AoE damage mitigation? They're gonna. I mean, doubling the shield is probably gonna make more people take it. I wonder if this is gonna be competitive with Dome now. Interesting. Okay, once again, they're getting the AoE raid healing cooldown buff. We're doing some targeted adjustments to some of Discipline's direct healing spells so that their mana gradually reduces over time if they are spending a lot of time applying Atonement. We would like Discipline to be able to regenerate mana slowly over time through using damage spells. Ooh, I love that. Kind of like how Mistweaver, like if you really need mana, you can just Tiger Palm Blackout Kick because those are literally free. They don't cost any mana. So I like that. So Power Word Shield. Mana cost increased by 8%. I'm not going to say anything. Not going to say anything. I don't want to draw any hate. Power Word Radiance. Mana cost increased by 20%. I have no comment. I have no comment. Ultimate Penitence, healing, and damage is increased by 35%. I like this. I think this should be their strongest cooldown. But a lot of times it feels like your worst cooldown as a Disc Priest. But you know, a lot of times, not every time. Ultimate Penitence, that should be like the strongest thing you do. It was when it first came into the game, but then it's just gradually just fallen off hard. So I like this. Buffing Ultimate Penitence is nice. Surge of Light reduces the mana cost of Flash Shield by 50% instead of 100%. Hey, I have no comments. Disc Priest cannot come after me in the comments, especially you, Derek. You can't come after me in the comments because I am not saying anything. Moving on to Holy. We're making an adjustment to healing cooldowns, blah, blah, blah. We've already read this. Divine Hymn is going to be doubled on 5-man. I love this. I've been playing Divine Hymn in 5-man content, and I actually don't hate it, but it's not the strongest thing ever. I have to pair it with, like, Halo to get the most effectiveness out of it, which feels really bad. So it getting love in 5-man's good, yada, yada. Surge of Light now reduces the mana cost of Flash. Oh, so they're doing that to both Holy and Disc. I don't know how I like that. Holy's mana doesn't need any nerfs, I don't think. Apotheosis now reduces the mana cost of Holy Words by 50% instead of 100. Oh, yikes. Okay. Oof, I don't like that. However, okay. So you're going to be spending more mana in some places, but Heal's mana cost is reduced by 5% baseline. I don't hate that. This one they desperately needed. Prayer of Healing costs so much mana. Prayer of Healing mana cost reduced by 5%. I love that. Flash Shield's mana cost reduced by 5%. Prayer of Mending mana cost reduced by 5%. You know what? I don't hate this. They can take away some of our mana here, give it back to us here. I love that. Renew, Holy Fire, all of that. Ooh, Holy Fire mana cost reduced by 40%. So once again, their damage spells are going to cost less mana. I actually love this. I think this is going to net to be pretty nice, personally. I'll have to see some charts, but I think it's going to net to be pretty nice. Epiphany now ignores the current cooldown of Prayer of Mending when it triggers instead of resetting it. Now ignores the current cooldown of Prayer of Mending when it triggers instead of resetting it. Okay, so then after you press the Prayer of Mending after Epiphany procs, it won't start you over at a fully cooldown Prayer of Mending. It'll basically say, hey, you have a charge on the back burner when Epiphany procs, and then you still if say your Prayer of Mending was at 1 second left on its timer and Epiphany procs, you basically can cast Prayer of Mending and then cast the one that just cooldowned. If that's how this is reading, I don't hate this at all. That's pretty nice. Honestly, I don't like Prayer of Mending builds. Personally, I don't think it's the coolest way to play Holy Priest. I hate when they go to Prayer of Mending builds, but this is pretty, I don't know, Holy Priest kind of getting saucy. I like it. Moving on, though. What is next? Our Totemic Friends. Gotta drink some water. Gotta hydrate. Okay. Just making sure I'm not missing anything. Dev notes, once again, they're buffing all the AoE spells. Healing Tide Totem, healing is increased by 100%. So Healing Tide is getting that raid cooldown thing. But are they going to, nerf the mana cost of Chain Heal? Are they going to buff Farseer further? Are they going to make Riptide builds feel really cool? Are they going to do all these things to Wellspring and buff all these things that just no one's playing that are really cool about Shamans? Let's read on. Ooh. Dang, I really hope... I really hope that they're working on something big for Resto Shaman. I do. I think Resto Shaman is the most fun healer to play. They're tied up there with Mistweaver, and I feel like they just I don't know what it is, but I feel like they're often it's like they're really nervous to mess with it. And I guess I get it because they do have a lot of utility and that can break them in Mythic Plus. But dude, just like double the healing of Whispering Waves. Like let them go crazy in raid with Whispering Waves. That would be so sick. Like just do something, man. Like make them crazy in raid again. Um, I don't know. This they need some more love. Come on. They need some more love. Okay, that's not the video though. We've talked about all the changes coming to each specific healer class, and once again, we are very early in the season 3 announcement cycle, so they're probably going to add a ton more changes, and I'll make videos as they announce things. But let me go ahead and talk about some of the important stuff coming in season 3 for us healers. Number 1, they're working on a system that's going to penalize players with like a deserter mark when they leave too many dungeons, and they're working on a way to where everyone's going to vote to say, hey, let's disband the group so that you can avoid this. But this is going to be very good because I know a lot of us healers deal with some very toxic DPS that flame you and then leave the group. Now they're going to get their comeuppance. So I like this. I thought I should include this in the video. Mythic Plus Leavers now finally penalized. Let's go and close this tab. Moving on. All players are going to have access to Shadow Meld. You guys know me. I am a female Tauren is my character, and it has been since I've started playing Mistweaver. I will never race change. If I'm playing another race of a monk, it's because I've made a second character. So having access to Shadow Meld is so good. You can fade. You can help with skips if you rip aggro as you're trying to do a skip. You can just Shadow Meld. You can do all these crazy things, like if a cast is targeting you, you can Shadow Meld it. Like Shadow Meld is such good utility that's why a lot of high key pushers are on Alliance specifically. So now it's going to be given to us in the form of a potion. So yes, it does use your 5-minute potion slot, which kind of sucks because now everyone's kind of not really on the even playing field. But it does make sense that they're keeping Night Elf on its keeping its its race intact. So I think this is great. I think this is a great way to do it, and hopefully it becomes a more permanent option. Like hopefully this potion is now going to be up there with like mana potions where it comes back every season. And then finally, you guys thought that all those healer changes were the big changes coming in 11.2. Well, boy, this next one is going to knock your socks off. So make sure that your feet are clean. We are getting a new lean emote, guys. It's happening. We can lean against a wall. You know, the game has changed. It's just, you can lean back. You can lean back when there's nothing to lean on. I mean, like, oh my God. Well, hey, you guys always have me to lean on. So at least there's that. But let me just look at the drip. Look at the drip. It's just the aura is oozing. We now are getting a lean emo. But guys, that's going to do it for this video. I think 11.2 is, so far, they haven't really announced like a ton of stuff. Nothing like game shaking, but the tier sets look insane. Once again, that video's link will be in the description below. So definitely check out the tier sets if you haven't already. I have talked about them in yesterday's video. And then a lot of the changes that they're doing to each spec are really awesome. The Mistweaver one, I mean, I guess I should say the Monk one with Vivacious is gonna be really, really fun to play with Thunder Focus Tea, with Focused Thunder. I mean, like, I am so excited. Guys, thank you so much for watching this video. I tried to make it as quick as possible while still giving it my normal energy. I'm sorry if it ran a bit long. But guys, thank you so much for watching. I will see you guys in the next video. Make sure that you guys are subscribed so you don't miss any Season 3 content. I do plan on doing an All Healers to 3K challenge for Season 3, as well as a couple of other very fun things, and making a lot of healer guides for you guys so that you are as prepared as possible for Season 3. So make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss any of that. Like this video if you liked it, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Take care, guys.